One episode I want to ask you about is Le Sex Show, which exactly captured the different ways that men and women look at sex. It was very funny.
We haven't seen a movie since, like, Ben-Hur. We've seen Fran and Mark once, and that was to get their car washed, and sex. Sex is like Canada. It's right there, but we never go.
And yet, underneath the funny was this subtext, which was the secret of Mad About You, which is that you never played it for laughs. You were always playing for this insecurity, this going in, this coming back, and this fear. And I wonder, when you taped that show, that was a wonderful show that had a lot of things happening. Are there any things you remember just about the taping of the show, or things you particularly liked about that episode?
I hadn't seen it in forever, and it just came up as one of the shows to watch for this, and I wrote Paul an email. I was like, that show I liked a lot, and I don't remember the specifics of making it, but as I just watched it a week or two ago, I felt there are times when I think, and I've had friends tell me this, that the show was very, you could relate to it, and at the same time it was almost hard to watch because they had such an ease with each other. There was no fear. I could go, oh, forget it, and he could go, oh, and the truth is, even deep into a relationship, I think in real life, yeah, I'm not that relaxed, you know what I mean? I am aware, maybe even more than Paul and Jamie were, that the other person might have had a hard day or that didn't land quite right, and this episode I feel like did capture that.
Oh, it's Debbie and Joan.
Get rid of them.
How?
I don't know. Kill them? Sorry.
That'll be quick. We held out this long, I think I can make it another 30 minutes.
Try to make it 10.
He's trying so hard to be true to how bad he wants to have sex, and at the same time, to be a good man means to not pressure her, and she's trying to show up in the marriage at the same time goes all the way to lying about a doctor's order about how long it could be till she had sex. I'd forgotten it totally.
With the shrink's help.
With the shrink's
both
help.
Lying.
Colluding to tell him that they can't have sex for 6 months instead of 6 weeks. I just thought that was so desperately, pathetically human and very male and female.
When could sex have begun? Commenced?
6 weeks after Mabel was born.
6 weeks?
I'm so sorry.
Not 6 months, but rather 6 weeks.
I couldn't be more sorry.
I thought it was a terrific episode, and partly it was sort of the grown-up counterpart to the pilot, which was roughly about sex, but in that case it was Jamie saying, well, we've been married 5 months, and where's the intimacy, and it's gone away, and here it's now another big highlight of life is post-child, post-pregnancy. When does your normal life, in fact, your actual normal life as you knew it, never comes back. But what was really fun, we had a lot of fun in the therapy scenes, and those were always fun to write and fun to perform. But watching it, it felt so honest that you just saw, I was feeling so bad for me because I was trying so hard. But wait a second, you can't fault me. I'm Mr. Sensitive, and I've done that, and there was something about, I haven't given you any pressure whatsoever. And you said, yeah, how do you think that makes me feel? It's just, okay, there's no way
to win.
Can't win here.
Back me up. Have I said or done anything to pressure you?
No.
No. A request, a suggestion?
No.
Have I hugged you funny?
He's done nothing.
Thank you.
And I mean nothing.
What's that?
Well, you could show a little interest.
What?
Well, how do you think it makes a person feel?
I have so much to absorb.
I guess it usually is more on the men's side of just trying to guess, and you do your best effort, and then you're somehow going to be wrong. And you just, all right, pick yourself off the canvas and go back in. Tomorrow, all right, maybe this will be the right way and to avoid any kind of confrontation. No, that didn't seem to work either. Okay. And that's really the game of relationships, and that was really at the heart of what the show was meant to be, was how do two people who are not exactly compatible, but certainly in love, how do they dance through all those things? Because really, there's no reason two people should be together every minute of their lives. How can that possibly work? It can't. And yet, we're in there every day trying.
There's one episode that was so remarkable, I almost couldn't believe it when I was watching. It was called A Conversation. And it's what's called in the theater a two-hander. It's a two-character play. It really was done like a play. And as I'm watching it, I realized they're not cutting. There's no close-ups in this thing. I'd never seen anything like it.
It was sort of born out of, what I remember is two things, a desire to see if we could pull off one episode in one shot, and I think it was a friend of mine, I think I was the one that kept watching this best friend of mine struggling with trying to get her baby to sleep through the night.
How long is the first interval?
5 minutes.
Okay, and then what?
And then one of us can go in and comfort her verbally.
Okay. But we can pick her up though, right?
Verbally.
And it just seemed quintessentially like our show. There's no winning, so that's a good thing to write a story about. It's funny, except when it's heartbreaking, and that seemed like our show. So I think it seemed like the perfect mix of things, and, you know, all nepotism included. I sort of credit my dad, who directed that episode, with a lot, because we said, oh, what a great idea, and this great script was written, and then we showed up and thought, can we actually do this? And he broke it down for us into sort of sizable pieces and had a real vision for how to keep it very simple, and, you know, it was just such a great chance to play for 22 minutes.
Look at that.
What?
We have a cabinet here?
Since the beginning, we'd always wanted to do, since we're talking about small, and we said, we'd love to do a show that just stays in bed. Not just because we were lazy. We just, but we thought, can we sustain it? Because we loved the talk of it, and certainly couples can talk for 22 minutes in bed, but we thought, is that ever going to be compelling television? How can you justify it without feeling indulgent? And then when this idea sort of married that, it's like, okay, now you have something to talk about. Let's put them against the door. They don't want to go in. They do want to go in. And Helen's father was terrific at that, because it was exactly that thought. We thought, this is going to be great fun until you said, there's no break, because usually you do 8, 9 pages. You go, okay, we're good. Let's take a break, come back and do the next scene. Well, there's no other scene.
And unlike a play where there's 6 weeks to get ready for that 22-minute scene, we had 4 days. So it was exciting, and I think it had been a little while since we'd been nervous, and we were nervous.
I'm shrinking, you know.
Usually we would start a show about 7 o'clock, and sometime 1 o'clock in the morning you'd go home. And this was 7, and we were done 7:22. I guess that's it.
On the first try you got this?
First try.
We had to go, we had a guy from the network whose job it was to show up and, I don't know, be there. And we had to go to him and say, you know what, it's 2 minutes long, what do you think? Because it was already a big deal for them to not, to let us get away without a commercial in the middle, because that's, I think, the most precious on-air commercial time is right in the middle of the programming. And so we had none of that, and then had to say, we're going to be this much longer, and he let us do it. But it was
And it was funny.
thing to do.
It was, yeah, because a commercial break would have really hurt the momentum in the show. But they ended up selling it and promoting it as commercial-free. You know, to me, well, that was the business end of it. But what we said, but it's very hard what we're doing. We're doing one take. Do you realize? And I said, nobody cares about that. That's why we ended at the end. We did this little tag where the two of them are watching, going, look how hard that is. Those actors don't have a break. They're doing that one take.
Sweetie, a 20-minute shot means that there's no margin for error. One little mistake, and they got to start all over.
Why would they make a mistake?
Well, not on purpose, but what if one of them forgets a line or drops a fork?
It was a joy, and it actually was very invigorating, because it felt like theater.
The audience was nervous, we were nervous, and
really, we'd have to start over. If we got to the 21.5 mark and slipped, it would have been ugly.
we also, when we rehearsed it, would get to the end and it would be like 23.5. So we would do it again. We'd take little cuts in the text, but also we just had to keep the thing going with a minute, with a sense of what would pick up a minute. It was fun. It was really fun.